What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Between the Corners. I'm your host, Josue.
And I'm your co-host, Robert.
And today we got a great show. We're going to talk about a few good fights that happened this weekend. Great events, actually. And we'll start off with Jaime Munguia versus Eric Bazinyan. Did I pronounce that right?
I think so.
Awesome. And of course, since you're a little bit more into boxing than I am, even though we both watched the fight and I'll be giving my input as well, I'm going to go ahead and let you take the lead on this one.
All right, so we're jumping right into it. I think it was a good fight for Munguia. He did a good job of coming back from a loss to Canelo. He had to adapt to Bazinyan's style. Bazinyan started with a really, really good stiff jab, which I was kind of impressed with. I think Munguia did what he had to do. He ended up nullifying that jab, and he tried to get his jab out there. And, frankly, Munguia is known for getting hit. Like, that's the main thing, and that's why a lot of people thought or felt like he was going to get knocked out versus Canelo. His defense is, it's a bit lacking. His offense is basically his defense. He's a pressure fighter. I think he still did good in that fight. Got the TKO in the 10th round, I think it was.
Yes, 10th round.
So I think he showed that he's definitely up there. This guy, Bazinyan, not a really big name, but again, Munguia did what he had to do there. And
he picked up the dub. Ref stopped it in the 10th round. One of the things that I did see, though, is Bazinyan did land several punches on him. Like you said, he's very susceptible to getting hit. And Munguia, he just stayed busy regardless. But what I was thinking is any bigger puncher would have probably put him out or put him on the ground or hurt him or stopped him, something. So moving up for Munguia in actual, in levels, he said he wants to fight Caleb Plant next or Berlanga. Who do you think would be the better opponent for him next?
Better in terms of who he has a better chance?
Yeah, who does he have a better chance with? Yes.
This is a little tough for me, right? Because Munguia is an exciting fighter, and that's the reason why people like to watch him, because he does get hit so much.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to that, I would say Berlanga would be a little tougher only because he hits harder, but Caleb Plant has the better boxing skills.
Yeah.
I think I would say for Munguia, I think Caleb Plant would be an easier fight for him. Even though Plant does have better boxing, he didn't look that good in his last fight.
Mm-hmm.
That could have been ring rust. I know that's what some I've seen some experts saying that's probably what it was, but he doesn't have the power to keep Munguia off of him, and that's what I think that's why I think it would be not an easier. I don't know if easier is the word. It wouldn't
just
be as
a better match
for Munguia in terms of maybe coming out. I wouldn't say with a sure victory, but a better chance of getting the victory.
Mm-hmm.
With that said, I am basing this off the fact that Berlanga did do better against Canelo than we all thought he was going to do. Doesn't mean he's, all of a sudden an amazing fighter, right? He lost just almost every round of that fight.
Mm-hmm.
He just did better than expected. So with that said, one thing that you pointed out, however, is the fact that he does have power. And that's something that Munguia, because he gets hit so much, he's susceptible to. So it's, if Berlanga lands that punch, I wouldn't say he'll knock Munguia out. Munguia has a great chin. He doesn't have a Canelo chin, but he does have a great chin. Canelo knocked him down. He was able to recover. Some people say Canelo carried him. Regardless, Canelo landed some heavy blows on both of them and wasn't able to knock either one of them out. I would say Munguia looked the more hurt out of the two. But with that said, I still think Berlanga would be a tougher match for Munguia now than Caleb Plant would be. And this is just based off their previous fights. Styles make fights. So I could be wrong. That's just my take on it.
No, and I agree with you on that. Like, if Berlanga didn't have the power that he has, 1,000%, I would have said, better chance for Munguia to come out with the victory next would be Berlanga. But because he does have the power, because he did show the resilience that he showed with the Canelo fight, that's why I agree with you on that. Caleb Plant didn't look as good in his last fight. He doesn't have that power. He can knock you out, of course, if he times one correctly and lands in the right area, like he has before. But yeah, like you said, I don't think he has the power to stop Munguia's relentless offense. So yeah, I think if Munguia's team really looks at both fighters, they should be leaning more into Caleb Plant. Even though I would rather see that. I'm getting off subject real quick. I'd rather see Berlanga versus Caleb Plant next.
Yeah, I think it depends what they're looking for too, right? If they're looking to get more viewers, I think they go with Berlanga. I think the whole Puerto Rico,
Munguia,
Munguia's team,
okay,
the whole Puerto Rico versus Mexico thing sells it. Like,
yeah,
and I think that's probably what they're going to aim at because it does sell. And now kind of thinking about it a little bit more, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. I think it's a 50-50. Regardless of who he fights, I think he has a good chance. He has an equal chance against both of them. Because the other side of this is the fact that Berlanga, against pressure fighters, we haven't really seen him against a pressure fighter like Munguia before. How is he going to be able to do that? He doesn't throw that many punches. He did against Canelo. Canelo seemed to gas a little bit. What is he going to do when Munguia doesn't gas?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of unknowns where I think that it's kind of it just depends which version of Munguia and which version of Berlanga. Yep, that's what it comes down to. But I agree. I think Berlanga would be the more exciting fight, the fight that I think most people would want versus Caleb Plant. But I think even Caleb Plant throwing his name in the mix, I think all three of those any one of them against each other would be great.
Like, just do like a Royal Rumble and have all three of them go in the ring together.
Yeah, we're not gonna get into that.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the next event, a huge event that happened in the UK. Man, and before we get into that fight, the environment there, like watching it on TV gave me a little bit of chills. Like 96,000 people in that stadium? Like the energy that they have, man. I gotta say, and I might get crap for this, but as far as the actual boxers go, when comparing the UK to the US, US is like, I feel like they're levels above, but event wise and fan wise, the way that was, I don't think I've ever seen that in the United States. 96,000 people in one stadium, that much energy. I don't think I've seen an event like that, a boxing event like that in the United States.
Right. I mean, look, all the major fights usually happen in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I won't take away from that, but you're right. That the energy that was in there was something that was lacking from the last fights in Vegas and New York.
Yeah.
Not to say that they weren't energetic, but like you said, that yesterday's event, they were at a different level. That was a completely different level. You could, even just watching it, you can feel the energy.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into the main event, actually, I wanted to talk about Shiraz versus Tyler Denny, the guy who looked like he was in the wrong weight class.
Oh yeah,
he has a bright future ahead of him.
Yes,
if he can maintain and is able to make the weight, he's going to be a tough one to crack. He's currently at 160, I believe, middleweight.
Mm-hmm.
Super middleweights better watch out too.
Yeah, no, I kind of forgot about him, but yeah, he was impressive. The way that he uses his length and he controlled the distance, and he took him out of there pretty quick, right? Was it the second or third round?
I want to say it was that the second round?
Yeah,
2 minutes and 5 seconds of the second round.
Yeah, no, that's anybody at that weight class better watch out.
Yeah, and I think including the king at super middleweight 168 Canelo, he would have a hard time with this guy only because of his reach. Now, granted, I am saying this just based off the fight yesterday, and obviously styles make fights.
Yeah.
The fact that his opponent was nowhere near Canelo's level is another thing to consider. But if the fight against Bivol showed us anything, I think it shows us that he does, that there's a reason why he struggled against Bivol. I think the reach was too much. And this guy, I think he's 6'4".
Mhm.
Bivol is what, 6'1", 6'2"? I believe Shiraz also has a longer reach
Then
than
B1.
Bivol, so I think he would give him, he would give him trouble if he fought a smart fight. Getting ahead of myself there, but yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. I think it was a good performance by Shiraz. I think he has a
Yeah.
really bright future ahead of him, and like I said, I know I'm getting ahead with the Canelo, and a lot of people are going to say, "What are you doing comparing those two?" I'm just saying I think somebody with that, the stature that he has and his reach would give someone like Canelo or anybody at 168 a tough time. You know what would be interesting? Him versus Benavidez. Not yet. Obviously, Benavidez is more season
Yeah.
2.
Oh,
But-
you're making him go up way too many levels right now. Hopefully his management team isn't trying to bring him up that high because
I know.
they need to climb
This
the
is
ladder,
just-
not jump the ladder.
This is just the way my mind works. But yes, there
Yeah.
has to be, levels in between,
Yeah.
steps in between. It's just more of, obviously, fantasy fights for
Yeah.
the future.
No, I got you. It's hard to not think of those people that are on top when you see somebody up and coming. You're like, man, I wonder how he would do with whoever's on top. So
Yeah.
I get what. Yeah, I get what you mean. All right, so now let's move on to the main event of the evening. We had Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Man, was that a fight!
Wow.
And from the first round. Yeah, no, I mean that fight right there. We called it on the last podcast. We called that it was somebody was going to go down. we didn't know who. Your money was on Joshua though, and you called the right round. You called the right round, and you called how it was going to end. Just the wrong guy. And this fight showed why I didn't want to call a fighter as who I thought would win because I knew the skill gap was not that, it wasn't that wide. So, as I said in the last podcast, with the power that these two have, it was going to be who landed that first hit. And Dubois did that in the first round. Anthony Joshua went down. And then from there on out, honestly, I don't think he recovered fully.
I don't think he fully recovered either. And I think the first knockdown, some can say it was due to him still being cold. But there was one key aspect that we saw throughout the entire fight, and probably what we've seen in other fights that Joshua's had. He leaves his left hand down. We saw it against Ruiz.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it even against the win versus Ngannou. He kept his hand down. Ngannou, obviously not being a boxer, didn't really take advantage of that. But
we were yelling at the TV. Put your hands up.
Even though we've seen this before, we had hope again that he would have seen this.
Oh.
But if anything, this showed other fighters. I think it gave them somewhat of a blueprint of how to beat Joshua.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. I think you have to have somebody with Daniel Dubois' power.
Yes.
But it still doesn't take away from the fact that Anthony Joshua, I don't know, it just seemed like the obvious thing to me. One other thing that I did see was, which could be because he's been in wars before, I did not like how he went straight back every time he got hit. Didn't really move much.
And he didn't bring that left hand up when he was going straight back.
Yep. We only saw that happen a couple of times at the end. It seemed like it was a fourth round, I think it was, when he finally decided to protect himself a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But going into the fifth round, we saw the same thing again. I want to say it was disappointing. It was a great fight. I love the fight.
It was a fun fight, entertaining fight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Obviously, no one likes being wrong. I was wrong. I was on the wrong end of my prediction. Right. I figured that by the fifth round, they would have already figured each other out. But I really thought that Anthony Joshua was going to take it. I'll be honest, I counted Daniel Dubois out. And I got to know better next time. I think
You almost had it right, though. Because Anthony Joshua in the fifth round landed a great straight right hand, and it hurt Dubois. It didn't bring him down, but
he was visibly hurt. I wouldn't say he was close to going down, but he was definitely
Mm-hmm.
ripe for the taking if Anthony Joshua had played it smart, but he got overzealous. He got overconfident, winged it exactly. And, I'm not saying that he did do this, but it almost seemed like Dubois learned from the Ruiz versus Anthony Joshua fight. Ruiz did the same thing when Joshua, knocked him down. He knocked Ruiz down and went for the kill. He got overconfident, started throwing wild haymakers, and Ruiz came with that short right hook. Same thing. I think, man, I don't know if it was a hook or a right cross, or straight right. But either way, that Joshua cannot defend the right. Like he
No.
is not good against. He doesn't know how to defend very well against. And then you would think, I didn't hear his corner. I don't know if his corner was telling him to keep his left up, but you would think that would be something that they practice a lot, especially because that seems to be where most of the times where he's hurt, it's when he's hit with the right hand.
Yeah, and one thing that I saw as well, and you see it in other fights also, when Joshua goes in for the kill or when he throws combinations,
He drops his hand.
well, first of all, his hands were already pretty low, but yeah, when he goes for combinations, he drops his
drops them
hands even
even more.
lower.
And he'll drop his right. So he already keeps this one low, keeps this one somewhat high. But when he goes to throw this one comes down.
Yes, and they never come back.
Yep. So I think yeah. Again, not taking away from Daniel Dubois, I just think that Joshua didn't give himself the best chance to win.
No.
Basically, in the fifth round, like you mentioned, he visibly, at the very least, got Daniel Dubois' attention. Daniel actually stopped throwing, kind of went back.
Yeah.
But I think in his mind, he realized, okay, this is when he's susceptible the most.
Mhm.
Joshua is susceptible the most when he feels like he's in control. And that's exactly, Joshua, I think, felt somewhat desperate because he had already been knocked down, twice?
Twice, yeah. Once in the first and once in the third round.
Okay. So he'd already been knocked down twice. I think he felt like he needed at least a knockdown. But again, he didn't seem to know how to throw combinations without getting hit. He, like you said, this one's already low. He dropped it even more after throwing it. His punch went closer to his hip than it did to his head to block.
Yep.
So it was easy. I mean, I'm not the one that did it, right? I can't say I could do it.
You could have done it. I believe in you.
Yeah. What Daniel Dubois did, but I'm saying from another boxer's perspective, that was easy money. He left himself wide open for that right.
Yeah, Dubois just kept his punches shorter and right in the money. Except for the first round when he knocked him down, that was a looping right hand that knocked Joshua down. But the one that put him to sleep was Joshua was throwing wide ass punches, and Dubois shorter punch. He warned him first because he did throw a shorter punch that landed kind of on the neck, but Joshua, I guess, was like, oh well, that one didn't hurt me, so he kept doing the same thing, and then Dubois came with the same one, but this one landed right on the money, put Joshua to sleep. You could tell Joshua was trying to, his mind was still probably in it. I could still do it, but his body,
he wasn't put fully to sleep, but he was definitely,
his body was done,
somewhat incapacitated temporarily.
Yeah, and he took bombs too throughout that whole fight. So, like we said, I don't think he ever fully recovered from the first round. We thought it was going to be a rocky moment at the fifth round when he landed that punch, but Dubois said, nah, not today. Today's my day. Today's my night. And he took the win. So impressive win by Dubois. Wondering what will be next for him. I think, of course, he would want to get that loss back from Usyk. That'll be
a controversial loss too.
Yeah, that would be a great fight. I think that would be an amazing fight. Yeah. I don't know who would win that, of course, because Usyk is Usyk. He's good. He's a great boxer.
He's good, but if anything, I learned a lot from Daniel Dubois. He has what it takes to beat Usyk if he fights a perfect fight. But that's where the big if happens, right? If he fights a perfect fight, he did make some mistakes in yesterday's fight too.
Yeah,
that Usyk could take advantage of. But the other side of that is Usyk doesn't have Anthony Joshua power. He's a better boxer, and he can knock people out, but
Yeah.
He doesn't have Joshua power. So I definitely think Daniel Dubois versus Alexander Usyk would be a really good fight.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And for Joshua, honestly, a lot of people were questioning if he should keep fighting or whatever. Or some people were. I can't say a lot. I don't know how many, but some people were questioning. But he's a fighter. He said he wants to keep fighting.
He has a rematch clause too.
He has a rematch clause. I don't think a rematch that he shouldn't do that. I don't think he should because of what I saw. I think Dubois takes it regardless.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Daniel Dubois will probably learn from his mistake more than Anthony Joshua. And I say that because Anthony Joshua, again, we already said this several times, but had several fights where he does the same thing, drops the same one.
Yep.
Daniel Dubois, he made one mistake in the fifth round. I think he can correct that, and I think you're right. I think, to be honest, just to kind of get his confidence back up in a fight that's very much winnable for him would be against Deontay Wilder. A fight that so many people talked about years ago, and definitely a fight that's already lost a lot of the steam that it would have had years ago. But at
people
this point,
still know those names.
But people still know those names. Both of them can make a lot of money off that fight, and that's a fight that I think Joshua takes.
Mm-hmm.
I think Wilder doesn't have the skills that Daniel Dubois has. I think Daniel Dubois would also knock out and Deontay Wilder probably even easier. Again, styles make fights, so anything can happen. And if Wilder does throw a haymaker that somehow lands on Anthony Joshua, which again he's susceptible to because of the fact that he keeps his hand so low. But I think it's definitely a winnable fight for Anthony Joshua now. So yeah, I think that would be good for him.
Yeah, either that or make him like a gatekeeper for young up and coming people that want to move levels. You don't think so?
Not at that point, especially coming off of. I say coming off of, but his previous fight before this one versus Ngannou, he. It was Ngannou.
Yeah, I was saying that was his second boxing match. He only was there. He was only there because of his UFC name.
Yeah, but I think who did Joshua fight before that? I think he did pretty good against the fighter before that too. I don't think it was just Ngannou who he did good against. Let's see, Otto Wallen, yes, who went the distance I think versus Tyson Fury. But he looked good against Otto Wallen, and I think that's why a lot of people would argue that no, I think he may still have a couple more fights. I don't know if he's a gatekeeper just yet. I think a fight versus Wilder would kind of determine who the gatekeeper is between those two. Wilder has lost the fights that he's had recently, but they've been against top competition. Competition.
I got you.
Thank you. But I think should Joshua, and I expect him to come out victorious. I was wrong in the last fight, so who knows? I would expect him to come out victorious versus Wilder, and then Wilder would definitely become the gatekeeper there if he chooses to fight on, because I know there's been a lot of talk about him retiring. But it would, still a good fight in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, hopefully nobody put their house on your prediction, because I had said that jokingly. So if you're homeless,
as long as you predicted that the fight would stop in the fifth round, you're good. But if you predicted an actual fighter and went with my pick, then you were wrong.
Yeah, no, but that was exciting, man. That was awesome to see for Dubois. He has a great career ahead of him. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the main events that happened this weekend. We do have a UFC event this weekend. Nothing too major. It is just UFC Fight Night. The co-main event and the main event is the only thing that I'm really going to talk about here. Go through it real quick. We got Nasruddin Imavov versus Brandon Allen. Both of those are coming in on a win streak. I think Imavov is actually his last 2 fights he's won, and then Allen his last 4 fights he's won. So it'll be an entertaining fight. Whoever wins this one, I feel like they're going to be the ones that move up in level of competition. And then for the main event, we got Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint-Denis. Benoit is coming off of a loss versus Dustin Poirier, so I'm sure he's going to come in with something to prove. And then for Renato Moicano, he's won his last few fights, so not going to be an easy task. My picks is going to be Imavov for the co-main event, and then for the main event, I think Benoit is going to take it. But that's pretty much it for UFC. We'll see how that night goes. Interesting fights. We'll be watching from the prelims as well, and anything exciting happens, of course, we'll talk about it here on our next podcast next week. All right. Moving on, we do have some boxing events happening this weekend. Actually, on Friday. Friday, we have some events. This one I am interested in watching because we have some up and coming fighters fighting in the I guess the main card. And I'll let you kind of talk about that real quick of those fighters and what's coming.
Yeah, we'll start with Bruce Shushu Harrington. Always an exciting fighter. Every time he's on, he puts up a show. His last three, I want to say, were TKO or knockouts. He definitely got stoppages. He's fighting a fighter that's also coming off a win, but Sagawa, in my opinion, is still not on Bruce's level. I have Bruce winning by fifth round TKO. Fifth round TKO. And again, I know I was wrong in the last one where I thought Joshua was going to get the win against Danny Dubois, but
you're going with the same round and everything.
I'm going with the same round.
All right.
And this one, you're wrong. I'm wrong. I'll stop
not the first time. No, I'm going to go with the same fighter, Carrington, but I'm going to go with the fourth round. I feel like he gets him out of there just a little bit sooner. It'll take him a little bit to get to know him or in the ring, but fourth round stoppage by Carrington. So we'll see who's right on that.
To your point, and Tagawa has been stopped before. He was stopped by Jermaine Ortiz several years ago. So it is possible that he'll get stopped sooner, but I still think it'll be fifth.
And Carrington, every time I see him, he's an exciting fighter to watch. So
he's on a different level.
He is.
He's just on a different level.
And that's how you know, like when people when you see a special fighter, you really see the difference when they're having to start at the bottom, in the pros, because they're already levels ahead of these other people. Just because that's how you know that's how he stands out. He's a special fighter. And then next we have another up and coming fighter in the co-main event. We got Xander Zayas versus Damian Sosa. Another Puerto Rico versus Mexico battle. What do you think is going to happen there? What do you want to see?
Obviously, I want Zayas to win. Mm-hmm. Hoping that he can do something that's extremely impressive. If he wins by stoppage, that would be great. But even if he puts up a great dominant performance against Sosa, that would go a long ways. Not going to be easy to get the knockout or TKO, though. Sosa has shown to have a good chin. He hasn't been seen too much, but has never been stopped. He's had 2 decision losses. If Zayas can get him out of there, it would really make a statement. But I'm going to go with decision, Zayas. Hopefully it's something that, he impresses a lot of people with. I hope it's not as flat as what I felt was a flat performance versus Teixeira.
You said Sosa has never been taken out in his career?
Correct.
It's going to happen Friday night. Xander Zayas, TKO or KO, 7th round. You heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first. 7th round. And that's going to be what everybody needs to see from Zayas so they can go ahead and move him up to that next level where he can start working his way up in the rankings.
Yeah, and I try not to be too critical of him because he kind of he assesses himself after fights too, and does a pretty good job of that. Mm-hmm. But what I would have to say to that is about time. I think he needs to step it up some more. And I know they have been gradually kind of getting him to that level. I think he's already at that level, and it's going to have to take somebody that's at an even higher level to bring the best out of him. Kind of like, again, not to say he won many rounds, because a lot of people can argue he didn't win any rounds against Canelo. But Berlanga showed a different level to his game when he stepped up against somebody like Canelo. Anyways, kind of going back to Zayas, I think if he can put on a truly dominant performance versus Sosa, that's all I ask for. I think he will do that. I think he in his last fight, he kind of said the same thing. Got a flat performance, in my opinion. Dominant win, but still not. In my opinion, he made some mistakes.
Yeah.
He just fought somebody that couldn't take advantage of those mistakes.
He could have done better. Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that.
This is still a step up for him, in my opinion. And Damien Sosa, he's going to come in there to win. Obviously, the Puerto Rico versus Mexico part is going to be a big deal. Both sides are extremely proud of their heritage. So I think it's going to be very, very important that Zayas is on his A game in order to,
especially in front of a New York crowd, because it's going to be in Madison Square Garden.
Yep.
So the Puerto Rican support is going to be there. Hopefully that works to his advantage and doesn't add more pressure than he needs. So yeah, good luck to Xander Zayas. Good luck to Sosa as well, of course. Hopefully they perform well and have a great fight. But Zayas will stop it in the 7th round.
Okay.
You heard it here first.
All right. The sound of that. I mean, I'm not, if it happens, I'll be extremely happy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And let's move on to the main event of that evening, which is going to be Sandy Ryan versus Michaela Mayer. I think that fight is going to go to distance. None of them, from their records, they really don't have much power. What are you thinking of that fight?
I think the same, and I honestly can't pick a winner out of the two. If I had to say gun to head, you have to pick one, I would say maybe a slight edge to Sandy Ryan. I know a lot of people may disagree with that, but Mayer.
I'm one of them.
What?
I'm one of them. I disagree with that, but go ahead. Continue your thought. Sorry.
Yeah. I just think that I think that Mayer's best years are behind her. I think Ryan hasn't looked that great either recently, which is why I said I really can't pick who's going to win this. But if I had to say, a slight favorite, in my opinion, would be Ryan.
Ryan? Decision or?
Decision.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think this is going to be a knockout.
Okay. No, I got you. So I'm going to, same thing. It's going to be a decision, but I got Michaela Mayer winning. Especially, I'm just doubling down on my comment from before saying that UK fighters are not at the same level as the fighters here in the States. And it is UK versus California. So I hope I'm right.
I hope you're right too, but we haven't done that great in recent years.
That's
so
true, but
you have to be careful with that.
We're coming
assessment.
back. We're coming back. All right,
I hope you're right, but
yeah, no. So some good fights happening this weekend. We'll be watching, and then next week, of course, we will be going over the recap and then what's coming after that. But yeah, hopefully y'all enjoy the fights as well this weekend coming up. Hopefully you already enjoy the fights that happen this weekend against, like we said, Benoit versus Joshua and Munguia versus what was his name? Bazinyan. Bazinyan. There you go. Sorry. He has a very unique last name.
I was trying to think of how to pronounce that.
Yeah.
I know we were saying Bazinyan before, so.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, please go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, of course. Like we mentioned before, if you leave a comment down below, let us know what you think. Let us know your thought. If you agree with us, if you don't agree with us, let us know why, of course. Turn on that notification so you can get notifications of when we actually put out a video. It'll be on a weekly basis, of course. And follow us on our social media platforms. I actually had it wrong last time. So, and on Instagram and on TikTok, that's going to be Between the Corners Pod, at Between the Corners Pod for both of those. And then on X, it'll just be Between Corners. So go ahead and follow us on those social medias. I'm trying to post as much as possible. I'm not posting much on X yet. Mainly, I'm just posting shorts and videos on Instagram and on TikTok. So please support us there. Anything else that you want to add for today?
It's going to be a fun weekend. I know these fights may not have the same level of, I would say,
excitement
compared to others, or notoriety.
Yeah.
But still, anytime there's boxing, I'm excited for it. So should be a fun weekend. I think we'll be back next week.
Sounds good to me. All right, folks. So that's pretty much it for this episode. Hopefully y'all have a great rest of your day, night, morning, whenever you watch this. Anything else?
Muchas gracias. Thank you. Obrigado. 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
Merci.
Merci.
That's it.
All right, awesome. Well, there you go, folks. So we'll see you next week. Pasa fuera.